Hi Collective, how are you? Um, I've just changed the angle a little bit here, and I really um, just wanted to share with you, like this morning, energetically, I've been feeling really, really positive, incredibly positive. I feel like I've had a really big energy shift within my own self, and I really wanted to. Um, I was channeling so much this morning, and for a lot of people who don't know what that is, it's really kind of receiving um, messages from the spirit from the spirit world. We can call the spirit world the Holy Spirit. You can call them our ancestors, whatever it is that feels comfortable for you to consider. You know who the spirit world is. You'll be drawn to your own perception and understanding of what that is. Um, Today, I really, really just felt this intense calm, and really, I've been cleaning all morning. For those who've been to my house and know me really well, I can be really, really messy. However, I just had this feeling of it's time to tidy up. It's time to sort things out, and that's what I've been doing all morning with huge amounts of downloads and messages. And I sat in front of the camera today and started to. I had all these I just had so many messages and things that I could hear myself feeling like I was saying to you guys. However, often I do channel, and I channel messages from spirit that are just directly for me. And I sat down, and what I think I'm going to speak about is not always what comes out. I felt like I needed to change the setup a little bit. One day I'll get a really good setup, and I'll get a good camera, and I'm on my laptop at the moment. I keep talking about this. I will receive it when the time is right, but for today, I just felt really, I just had so many things to say to you. However, when I sat in front of the camera, it really shut down. And that's when I know that those messages are really just for me. And when I sat down, I was planning on just doing a channel message through speaking. But when I did sit down, it just went absolutely silent. And that really showed me that they were like, well, why don't you just do the same thing that you're doing? Just use the tarot like you would normally. So I'm going to, and we'll see what we have to say, what they have to say, we have to say. Yeah, I will put up the heading. Sorry, I'm pausing because sometimes the information will just stop. Rigid stop if I'm heading along the wrong path. I think they're just like, come on, get on with it. Just look at the cards. So let's look at the cards. Here we go. So I do think it's important to shuffle in front so that you can see. And we'll just go from there. So I did get drawn to a couple of decks, which I may use, I may not. I never know. Every time I think I'm going to, have a clear direction, when I actually sit down to do something, it just takes this wild path on a different direction. So often what I think it is going to be is not going to be. And that's really part of channeling and divination. and following Spirit's guidance is that you just actually have to take the step, and every teeny tiny little step you take, they're just like, no, this way, no, this way, and it's really, it can be so daunting, and it is just simply something to practice, and what I would suggest is that you never ever move forward unless you feel it comfortably within you. Something that keeps coming up to me at the moment has been the concept of kind of using fear to find your empowerment. I am not entirely a believer of that. I actually think that the more you trust your intuition, the easier your path can be. So I don't really invite, I don't like to live or reside in fear. I think fear is really an emotion that it's telling us something, and we have to listen to it. And we move when we feel it is right to move, and not a second before. So yeah, we'll see what we have to say. Okay, now I am watching my laptop here, and I'm seeing what's on the bottom of the pile, and I think for you, I'm not going to read it, but I think you should. I would encourage you to read what you see at the bottom of the pile. It's like a flash, isn't it? It's really, really different. So there could be a lot of messages here. I don't know. And I don't really have any particular way of shuffling or, no rules. I don't have a layout or anything. What happens for me is that they just fall out randomly, and everything usually lines up accurately. So, yeah. Really shuffling for a long time, so it's just, the energy just feels really different. So they usually come out quite rapidly. So I think whatever you're seeing at the bottom of the pile is probably really significant. Especially since I'm working this way today. Yeah. I feel like you guys are getting more information from what you're seeing on the bottom of the decks than what I am. Maybe this is a bit of a flash reading for you to trust yourself. Okay, well that took a lot longer than normally happens. I'm feeling the word patience and waiting until The time is right. Um, so, interestingly, this direction, I feel like we have the potential to have two different readings, um, because I have the direction of the cards facing me, and yet you have the directions of the card facing you. And I think that's really a great opportunity, again, for you to learn how to trust your own intuition, and uh, just whatever messages are coming through for you is what should come through. So don't doubt yourself. Don't, just trust yourself and go with the flow and see what happens. Okay. Now I feel like immediately, as soon as I just turn these two over, I feel like the way they're facing you is actually the message. Yeah, definitely. So we have two major arcanas, and we have the Seven of Pentacles. So again, for those of you who are joining me for the first time, I really am here to help teach you and guide you to learn about the tarot, and creating opportunities for you to learn how to trust your own intuition and the spiritual path that you're on, and not to solely rely on me. It's really about you, anyone who's come here today to watch this. So firstly, we have the Justice card, we have the Star card, and the Eight of Pentacles. And again, I don't feel like I'm needing to reiterate, so whoever's going to be watching this, you might have watched some of the other things that I've looked at. So the Eight of Pentacles, I'm saying 1, 2, 3, yeah. The Eight of Pentacles, any Pentacles card is really those earthly things, but they can also be inner values. So not only is it money, the coin, it is also the things that we invest into on this earth, and what we invest into is really, I guess where our path is. What we want something to grow from it. So yeah, and then we have the Star card. The Star card is a really beautiful card. Again, it's one of the happiest cards in the deck. I've heard tarot readers say before that the Sun card and the Star card are two of the happiest cards in the deck. It suggests that the Star card actually is also a card of hope. There's a what I like to do is we'll go through the images that we see, and we'll talk about what they can mean and what they represent. So you have obviously the star, so it's at night time. There's no moon, which is interesting. And we also have a lot of growth. We have a tree, we have a bird, we have water. We've got a woman with 2 cups who is just pouring out water onto the land and into a pond or more water. And it looks limitless. The way this is depicted is that it's almost like these are magical jugs that she's just pouring out her love and her feelings and her emotion, but the act of doing it is resulting in profound abundance and growth of everything that is around her, and that's really special. The Star card is a really, really beautiful card, and it's something as someone who's really balanced. The other card that we see with someone handing out or pouring out water is the Temperance card. The Temperance card has, again, more. This is a feminine figure, but the masculine figure is also pouring cups out. I think it's onto the land and onto water. I feel like I want to check it, but anyway, it didn't come out, so I'm not going to overthink it or overlook into it. It's just the first thing that I am aligning this to. And sometimes I kind of think that the Temperance and the Star card are kind of the match, the balance of each other. They're similar. the masculine energy and the feminine energy of the same thing. So this figure being in at nighttime with this star, you're seeing, when I think of stars and look at this star, I tend to think of like the star that led the three wise men to Jesus in a manger. And so it's like a divinely guided person who has this balance within that. It's just overflowing and it's limitless. This love, these emotions, these positive things, whatever she pours out of herself is constantly refilled. It's just a miraculous kind of a thing to happen. And she's very comfortable in this environment. This is she's naked, and that means that she's very capable of being vulnerable. When you see nakedness, we're looking at our vulnerability and being okay with that and safe and secure in our, not only our bodies, but in the risk, I guess, it takes to be so raw. And so this is just simply such a beautiful card, because it's really about security, inner abundance. I'm going to suggest as well that because it is at nighttime, that nighttime is something that it's not something that she has to announce. You know, it's not something that she has to, proclaim loudly to everyone around her. She's simply confident, secure, and happy and abundant in how she feels. And it's just such a balanced and beautiful place to be. So that's just my take on the Star card. Justice. So I'm not reading this all together as something that I fully understand at the moment, okay? So just so you know, I don't always know, and channeling is really about just talking and letting the words pour out, and whatever happens, happens. So the Justice card, obviously, when we're looking at justice, we do have to consider, has there been an injustice, and something that's been very unbalanced and unfair. And we're looking at it's interesting that they are a king. I've not really paid too much attention to that before. But being at this end of the table and looking down this way, I'm like, the first thing I just saw is a king. And yet there's a little gem here that's, I'm going to suggest, right near the third eye. And this is someone who is... when we think about the crown, we think about the crown chakra, and that's receiving divine information and really relying on it, and with truth and with understanding that balance has to be brought forward. So justice is here for whatever's going on. I actually... am not receiving a huge amount of information here. So I'm just going to simply going to use these Destiny cards again. It's really strange. I'm feeling absolutely blank, which when I channel it doesn't really happen. We've got strength. This is someone who is really strong. One thing I am really... I want to focus on about vulnerability is that vulnerability is strength. When we don't require any other external source, that, my friends, is the ultimate place of power. And that is just... People often think that emotions and feelings are something that are going to be regarded as a weakness. And I think that comes because when we've had experiences in our lives that people have abused our vulnerability, our nakedness, our rawness, when people have done that to us, we build up a lot of walls and a lot of boundaries and protective strategies so that no one can ever harm us again. And what I would really like to encourage you is that vulnerability is one of the most singular, powerful places that you can be. And when someone offers you vulnerability, it is one of the most profound gifts that they can give you. It's incredibly valuable. And the mistake that so many of us make is feeling that our emotions, our true, authentic self is not good enough, or it's weakness. I just keep hearing that it's weakness. And I'm going to sit here and say to you that is not the case. Because if you can't be vulnerable to yourself first, then you're not ever going to hear the truth of who you are. And you won't be able to find the path that is right for you. When we're vulnerable with ourselves, we are listening to who we are. We're opening ourselves up to hear the truth of our authentic being, and we are then able to have the power to choose the path that is right for us, not for someone else, but for you. And what someone else might do is irrelevant because they're being their self. And we always have to come back to our authenticity. And this is something that just keeps coming up for me over and over again. And it has been a journey myself that I have been on, where authenticity and understanding who I am, so doing this kind of thing, this is my authentic self. Receiving these messages, this is something that I've done all my life, but I didn't really understand it because I did have so many walls. I had so many things that really suppressed me, and I have had to navigate and remove those suppressions, understand what beliefs have suppressed me from being my authentic self and choosing paths that have aligned with who I am. And this here is me. It is entirely who I am. And so this is very vulnerable. This is a little bit of a testimony. So I firmly believe that strength, I'll just show you so you can read that clearly. Strength is being able to be firstly vulnerable with yourself enough so that you can trust yourself and value yourself, love yourself, care for yourself, so that in the long run, that is just an endless well of happiness and security, safety. When we don't feel like we could be this to ourselves first, we can't be raw or naked or honest with ourselves, then we can't be honest to the people around us. And that's, it just kind of leads us into a direction of harm firstly self-harm, and then harm to the people around us. So that is a profound sadness when we can't be honest with ourselves first. That's a really big message. I'm going to feel like I'm going to do this again. Okay. So I always choose where the cards fly out is where they lie. So in justice, on the justice card, we have integrity, perseverance, and beautiful simplicity. You know what's beautiful about being naked? There's no work to it. You don't have to work hard to be anything less. You can't cover up anything. You can't, when you're naked, and you're comfortable being naked, then it is so freeing. It is the ultimate place of freedom. And I just think that the simplicity of living authentically is, again, I'm going to say, just incredibly powerful. And that's something that we all struggle with, is to, sometimes we really have to clear out a lot of blocks, a lot of emotions, and anything that doesn't align with our authenticity. And we know what is authentic within us because, you know what, it feels good. It feels right. And anything else, things that cause us pain and suffering, are often that we experience suffering and pain because we're not aligned to our true selves, our authenticity. And the quickest way to discover that is by discovering how we feel and being okay, not judging. We don't have to judge ourselves, or when we talk down to ourselves, our inner talk, our self-talk that is criticizing. So when we have inner criticisms and any shame, any guilt, any horrible emotions that we're pouring out onto ourselves because, or talking to ourselves in that way, it's going to cause us to, not only is that painful for us to do, but it's going to create painful experiences in our life. So when we feel pain, especially emotional pain, we have to listen, because something is not aligning with how we truly feel. And the way we can heal that is to firstly listen and accept without any judgment what we're feeling, how we truly feel. And sometimes it, just writing it down. I feel ... Don't write a because. Don't write anything after it, because the because is a judgment that you're making as to, you're trying to assume why you feel a certain way. Don't look for the why. Firstly, just start with saying how I feel, and sit with it and allow whatever emotion comes up to tell you the truth of the situation. It really works. Just thinking about justice, integrity. Well, integrity is everything about justice. Justice cannot exist without integrity. And integrity, again, I'm going to say that it completely aligns with this, is truth, authenticity, it's not trying to hide anything. It's trying to consistently maintain something, but not a false thing. It has to be a true thing. And that is actually quite, I'm going to say, it's just quite a difficult journey when you first start looking at understanding what integrity is and the personal side of integrity. Integrity and authenticity are one of the same. You cannot be authentic without integrity. You have to be integrally aligned to your true self in order to live a happy, abundant, peaceful, content, empowering, secure, safe place in your own life. You have to, do that. It's not relying on someone else. Sometimes we confuse justice. Sometimes I think I'm going to say this might sound a little strange, but sometimes when we are dogmatic, that means that when we are sticking to a rule, no matter what the context is, no matter what. And what rules and dogmatism do is actually prevents you from trusting your intuition. Trust me, I'm the ultimate rule keeper in many ways. I grew up in a very religious environment where there's all these rules, and here I am on the tarot teaching and something that is actually completely the opposite of what I was taught. However, sorry, I've just gone blank. I need a minute for spirit to come back, I think. Sometimes they do that. They're like, no, you got off subject or whatever. Integrity and justice. Sometimes we can be sticking to a rule because we feel that rule is the right thing to do no matter how we feel. And I'm going to suggest to you that is actually a very dangerous place to be. This was a really big thing for me to get my head around, to understand that in order to be just, you actually have to be authentic to yourself first, and honest with yourself. And then the path for justice actually carves its way through, because you have to be just with yourself first. You have to be really honesty with yourself helps us firstly weed out the people who can, that's a really cool thing. When we're firstly honest with ourselves, it helps us negotiate who is in our life. It helps us create justice despite what the external world might say. When we aren't living authentically, we build up and attract people to us who are also not living authentically. And so what you find and you discover is that you're in relationships and communities and all this kind of thing where no one's telling the truth. No one's being honest, and no one's truly aligning to themselves. And then you start getting these really toxic imbalances and all that kind of stuff. And when you do, so when you're waking up to this kind of a thing, and you do start to just really stick to how you feel and taking action, you might get a huge backlash. And trust me, I've definitely been there. When I started to challenge how I was being treated, and challenge what people would be telling me, and yet I was seeing that underneath that, something felt wrong, something just didn't feel right, but they would say one thing to my face, but I was feeling something else completely different. And it took me a long time to accept my reality was that I was surrounded by a lot of negativity, a lot of negative people who didn't have my interest at heart. They didn't have genuine love for me. They didn't want good things for me. And so they would say something like, I love you, but yet they would treat me really nasty, really mean. And I was in this constant state of confusion and flipping and going, but they wouldn't have said that. You know, when we start to say about someone else, they didn't mean to say it. Unfortunately, I'm going to say to you, you need to trust the reality is that people who aren't kind to you don't have your best interest at heart. It's really very simple. Be careful of justifying people who don't have good integrity. They may want you in their life because of what you do for them or how they look around you or whatever it is, whatever codependent mess it is. You have to look at your reality of how you feel and what you see. Because I certainly did this in the last reading. It's kind of really aligning. There's just this really big push at the moment, and I did not expect this to go in this direction. But the challenge is really to trust yourself first in order to carve out truth and justice in your life. And that perseverance, okay, it actually takes a huge amount of perseverance, a huge amount of strength to do that. If you can't stand vulnerably in your authenticity before someone without criticism, then I would encourage you to question whether that person is good for you or not. So the easiest way to eliminate toxicity is to be authentic and allow the reactions of the people around you to tell you who they are and what their intention is for you. People who disagree with what you want to do, people who criticize, people who laugh at you, people who simply will say one thing and do another. That is how you do it. And trust me, that takes strength, because when you are vulnerable and authentic, the people who see that and love you as you are, they're the ones that aren't going to hurt you. They're not going to do anything. When you can stand before someone safely, securely, confidently, vulnerable, and they remain respectful of that, they are the ones who you should never let go. You should never let them go, no matter who they are. It's a very simple thing to do. It's very simple, yet it's one of the most hardest things that you can ever do. And I do know how hard that is. I'm very emotional. I think these two, really the message here is about again, looking at investment. And I'm going to suggest that the investment really is you. We can get caught up in thinking that we're going to find fulfillment in money, status, popularity, all that kind of thing. Yeah, look at that. Risk. And it's still coming out here. This is a profound risk. It's really hard because the reality is that when you do send in your authenticity and you start cutting people out, that's a profound loss. It's a disappointment because we are losing something that we really loved. We can lose people that we really tried to convince ourselves that they were loving, because they might have said that. They might have said, I love you. But actions and what you feel, if you don't feel loved, then, my friends, the truth is that it may not be love. It may be something else. It might be dependency. It might be trauma bonding. It might be, codependency or fear or all kinds of things. And the only way to sort that out is to learn who you are and learn to understand how you feel. There's 5 cards here. Forgiveness, sincerity, grace, and discipline, boldness. The way I'm reading that is really that this is someone who's got to work. This person's working. And the energy of this reading just feels like, yeah, this takes a lot of work. It really does, unfortunately. But it leads to the best life. I really hope that you can see that no matter who is around or what you're seeing in your external environment, that the best investment you can make is you. Not anybody else. Not trying to fix someone else, not to find satisfaction in anybody else. That is a constantly moving and relative thing. You can't get grounded unless you are invested into yourself and your beautiful authenticity, just as you are, exactly as you are. Because when you discover that person is the delight of the universe. And And I just hope that you see that. You are the star. You are greatness and good things. A good thing, you know. Just going to do a starseed oracle, which I'm finding is coming up more and often. I'm getting pulled to do that. Advancement, and this came out in my last reading. So I really feel like there is a very consistent story here. A strong energy is propelling you forward. Follow the stirrings of your heart, and that is 100% a confirmation on what this is. The stirrings of your heart, your emotions, what you feel, they are valuable, they're important, they need to be heard. You need to be heard, but you have to listen to yourself first before anybody else. You know, you can try and force someone to listen, but if you're not listening to yourself, you will reflect that back. Your experiences reflect back your belief about yourself. And until that shifts, you're going to keep going down a very painful, toxic cycle. And that's, it's not good for anyone, but no one can do this work. No one can do the work except for you, your beautiful self. It does take perseverance and it does take discipline, but that is a practice. That becomes easier and easier and easier and easier. And, you know, sometimes we've got Mount Everest. Didn't mean to say that. Someone, you know. So advancement. And again, this is twice this has come out. And I'm going to show you that it came out like this. Okay, so it flipped over. And that is strength. So that's the second strength card. And I want you to understand that vulnerability and emotions are not weak. They are, when you can sit there in your emotions and your vulnerability, that is one of the most empowering places to be. It's the most authentic place to be. And anyone who says otherwise is likely threatened by the fact that you are living authentically. Question the friend, question the relationship, question that, don't question yourself. It's practice. So strength. You are being guided by the cosmos. Stay strong. A positive outcome is assured. And absolutely, 500%. I don't doubt this for a second. So that is all. And whoop. Okay. So sometimes I think I'm going to end and then it doesn't, because I just start doing things, you know. I don't mean to. We're coming to an end. Stillness. Reflect on this moment. Reflect on this moment with love, kindness, and compassion. Oh, the hardest thing in the world is to be kind to ourselves, especially when maybe something toxic's been drummed into us, maybe that we're not good enough or we're like a bad person in some way. What we believe is what we manifest. And yeah, it's really just saying, take some time out. Take the time out. There's no rush. There's nothing to rush to. What is meant for you is meant for you. And there's nothing to be afraid of. Stillness, peace, pause, that kind of thing is the words. And also there's just a, sorry, I got a little message here. for myself. That's personal. But dreams. What Spirit's trying to say to you right now is, for whoever's watching this, is that the universe does speak to you through dreams. All right. So it's a good idea if you do keep a dream, a journal, or just write it in your phone when you wake up when you first see it. I've kind of started writing things on my calendar on my phone, and saving it. And it's been, I think I started doing that last year. It's been about a year, but I've only just started to do it much more consciously, and it's been really amazing. And once you do start to open up to Spirit and yourself, there's no doubting. There's no doubt. And that's a secure, safe place to be. But it has to start with your inner being and trusting how you feel and not judging it. Don't judge how you feel about anything. Anything that is shoulds, I need to, I should do, I have to. Any of those kind of beliefs that you hear in your mind that start with something like that is actually a really toxic belief, because you feel what you feel, you think what you think, you like what you like, and you don't need to force yourself to do anything. Never. So this is really a really big message today, and I really wish you the best on your healing journey, and where you're at is where you're at. And the only judgments you need to worry about are the ones that you're making about yourself. And I think I'd encourage you to really just question that. Sorry, I don't mean to shuffle, let's just have it. No limitations. You are a celestial being with unlimited, sorry, hold it up so you can see I'm reading it. Unlimited potential. There is much for you to share. And this is one of the most important lessons in ascension, in spirituality. Ascension is healing. Ascension is stepping into your authenticity. It's not going to, I have to be a task, doing it this way. It's, I simply exist. I simply exist as myself. And that is when you find the most happiness in the world. Earth Guide. Your sacred calling upon this planet is to simply love and be loved. That really took me a minute to understand what that was, because I had to love myself first before I could accept and start to receive love, because we cannot receive it unless we're aligned to it. And you can have all the desires and thoughts in your mind, but until you are aligned to it, you cannot receive it. And alignment just means, you can use another terminology, belief. Because sorry, I just feel like I'm waffling on and on and on. I don't want to lose you. One of the things that are really strange about this earth and this life, and looking at spirituality and understanding what manifestation is, we hear so often that, like, I'll believe it when I see it, and we have a tendency in this world to really think that our external experiences are that we can't control that, that we have no, that is the truth. It's that I believe it when I see it. However, the law of the universe functions differently. And it's not that what you're experiencing isn't true, because it is. It's something that you've manifested, but it starts backwards. It starts in the other way. What we experience confirms what we believe. And that's a really opposite way of perceiving the world around us. So it's really, really helpful to look at our experiences, how someone might be treating us, and realize that that is just a reflection of you, of how you're treating yourself, of how what your beliefs are. So if someone's been really mean to you, the question I'm going to ask you is, how are you being mean to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? And when you really start to listen, you'll see that. You will see it. But it's really hard initially to navigate that. So yeah, it's a challenge here is to challenge your belief in your systems, your structures, and who you are. But you can do it. You can do it. You can absolutely do it. Yeah, that's enough, because it is really, really heavy. And I just want to reassure you that I have done this as well. And I have been there, and it is incredibly painful, and it can be quite dark. And often, instead of receiving, like when we make these positive changes, often what we get is a call to return back to the old self. Especially from people who, as we heal, people no longer align with who we are. And what we have to do is release those people. But that's really confusing, especially if we've got a family and long-term friends and relationships and all that kind of stuff, because we fear the loss of them. And that requires a lot of grief. It provokes grief. And we do have to grieve the loss of what we hoped for, what we thought was. And that's a really important thing to do. Again, we have to go back to how we feel and to trust that. I could just go on and on and on and on and on, and I really don't want to, because this is enough, and this can be really rocking for anybody who's watched this. But at the same time, you've got this. You've absolutely got this. And just remind yourself what strength is. It is vulnerability. And the people who genuinely love you will enable and encourage you to live authentically, and will respect that vulnerability. They will respect it. They will love it. They will love it. Okay? Those people who love you in your vulnerability, I'm just repeating this over and over and over again. Those people who love you in your vulnerability truly love you, because that's what we want, right? We all want to be loved for who we are, not what we offer, not what we give, even though you can give a lot. That's not what love is. Love doesn't demand or try and force us to be something. It supports us. It accepts us when we're at our weakest, often. So yeah, I really need to leave it at that. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. More because I really understand where you could be in this position, but it will come through. It will pull through. It will be amazing, and the best thing you can offer to the world around you is to be you. Completely. I love you. Take care.